cooperative agreement with the U.S. Department of Education. And this is what the cooperative agreement says. PARC agrees to make student-level data that results from the assessment system available on an ongoing basis for research, including for prospective linking, validity, and program improvement studies. Student-level data. So any data that goes from Louisiana to PARC will go directly to the U.S. Department of Education because that's what their contract calls for. The PARC cooperative agreement with the U.S. Department also says the grantee, that means the PARC, must provide timely and complete access to any and all data collected at the state level to the U.S. Department of Education. So as soon as PARC tells you what you need to give them, and they haven't done it yet, they haven't written the test yet, they're working on it, and they haven't told you what you're going to have to do, what kinds of data you're going to have to give them, but as soon as they do, then, and you start giving it to them, then that's going to the U.S. Department of Education. Also, PARC says, because Louisiana has agreed in its PARC contract that you will try to identify and, I can't remember the word, eliminate, I guess, barriers in state law that might interfere with giving these assessments. And presumably that would include state data privacy law. If that interferes with it, then you've committed to PARC, you're going to get rid of it. Okay, now, Louisiana, you'll be happy to know, is very enthusiastic about collecting and sharing data. They have shown their intention to be on the cutting edge. To find out what your state really is doing, it's helpful to go to your Race to the Top application. The Race to the Top applications were hundreds and hundreds of pages long, and in fact, sometimes people, outside funders had to come in and help you to put this thing together. And one of the funders, or the main funder who helped Louisiana put its application together was the Gates Foundation. So in that Race to the Top application, Louisiana, and this is where they're telling the U.S. Department of Education, you give us this money, this bribe, and we will do, this is what we'll do with it. And so first of all, they talk about how it's great. They have done all the 10 essential elements of the data quality campaign, and we're one of the few states that have done all that. And so they're very happy with that. And then, oh, by the way, in the data system in Louisiana, for teachers, this isn't for the students, but for the teachers' data system, it's called HCIS, Human Capital Information System. So that's what the teachers are, teachers and administrators. So you're talking about all the student data. Teachers, leaders, administrators, researchers, and other stakeholders, sort of your catch-all, will have unprecedented access to this and other data through the linked human capital identification system, et cetera, et cetera. And Louisiana Department of Education is also eager to share this information with researchers and relevant stakeholders for various reasons. And they talk about sharing it among different agencies within the state, because if you think that the Department of Education is keeping your child's data in the Department of Education, think again. They talk about with what agencies they're sharing it. It says longitudinal data from educational, social service, corrections, health, and workforce systems. Remember, this is a workforce development model, and so they are sharing it with your State Department of Labor. So that's what Louisiana is wanting to do. So let me scoot through some of this right quickly. And also, of course, y'all are probably familiar with the whole In Bloom debacle in Louisiana, where you were in Bloom, which is something funded by Gates Foundation. Very good. So In Bloom is essentially a cloud computing service where they're supposed to, I won't get into all the details of it, primarily because I don't understand them all, but they are supposed to take the data from the different repositories and make it all usable. And some states went into it, and they were all excited about this, and this is going to be great, until parents started to find out about it, and they said, maybe it's not so great. And so John White got out of it quickly. But if I were y'all, I would keep a close eye. Sometimes we've found in other states, when people say, oh no, we're not going to do something, we're out of this, we're out of that, sometimes it doesn't quite work out that way. So just keep an eye. Okay. Now, I just wanted to talk about my little prop I carry with me everywhere I go. This is a report that y'all may have seen before. Some of you may have seen it. is called Promoting Grit, Tenacity, and Perseverance. Critical Factors for Success in the 21st Century. This came out in February 2013. It's from the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Educational Technology. It was on their website. And this talks about how in the 21st century, which is of course different from every other century as far as education goes, you have to focus not so much on content knowledge because, you know, hey, if you want to know something, you can Google it. So why should school waste time teaching you something? So you have to develop things such as the 21st century skills, which all start with C for some reason: collaboration, consensus, you know, all of that stuff. Critical thinking, which is baloney. It's not critical thinking, but and so if you're going to teach kids how to do that, you need to develop the right mindsets and the right attitudes and values and dispositions. That's what 21st century education is supposed to be, and this report talks about it. And of course, if you're going to try to develop that, you've got to have a way to measure it, right? Especially when in the Common Core standards, there is a math standard, for example, that says that you are to make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. So you've got to persevere. It's right there in the standards, so you're going to have to measure it, right? Okay. So the grit, this is from the U.S. Department of Education now. So they talk about different ways you could measure it. And they said some of the most promising directions are educational data mining and effective, with an A, effective computing. So what is effective computing? Well, this is what that means. I didn't know what that meant. Effective computing is the study and development of systems and devices that can recognize, interpret, process, and simulate aspects of human affect, with an A. Emotional or physiological variables can be used to measure, they're talking about measuring emotions. Discrete emotions particularly relevant to reactions to challenge, such as interest, frustration, anxiety, and boredom, may be measured through analysis of facial expressions, EEG brainwave patterns, skin conductance, heart rate variability, posture, and eye tracking. This is what they say should be measured. And for those of you who have seen this report, sometimes I'm doing these things and somebody will shout out page 44. This is page 44. They give you pictures of how they would do it. Here we have a picture of a facial expression camera, a posture analysis seat, so presumably if you're bored, you know, you're sort of slumping in your chair, a pressure mouse for your computer, and wireless skin conductance sensor, so you can measure temperature and all that kind of stuff. So if you use things like that, then you can sort of tell what's going on with the child. There's another report that I didn't actually have it up here, but it's another big one, and I don't want to haul it around. But it came out the same time from the U.S. Department of Education, and it has a completely meaningless name. It's called Expanding Evidence Approaches for Learning in a Digital World, and it talks about digital learning platforms and how they can really help people collect all of this data on the students. And we're not talking about the kind of data you're thinking about. You're not talking about the name, address, and all that stuff. What they're talking about is they want to know what they call the fine-grained data. They want to know not what your child knows, but how he thinks, to predict how he might handle something. Does he have these issues? Does he have that issues? Does he get frustrated easily? And they do this with the digital learning. That this report was written by Karen Cator and C-A-T-O-R. So the Cator report talks about all these digital learning platforms. And when I say digital learning, I'm not talking about having a great professor with a great lecture that you watch on the screen. That's not it. What we're talking about is the digital platforms where you have a prompt and then a response and a prompt and then a response, and so it's sort of a Pavlov kind of thing. That's what they're doing, because with every keystroke, with everything the child does, they can measure data on that child and figure out what is going on in the child's brain. There was a session that was done with the U.S. Department of Education about 15 months ago called Datapalooza in Washington, and they had a bunch of people who came there who were the executive directors of these digital learning companies, and one guy his name was Sean Bay from something called eScholar. He was talking about how every interaction gives non-cognitive data. He said, we are collecting billions of records of data, and he said, Common Core is the glue that ties all of this together, because Common Core is how they get the digital learning into the classrooms without the parents understanding exactly what is going on. So let me finish with this. I was making this speech somewhere in Georgia not too long ago, and talking about how this could be happening in the classroom. Think of it, does anybody here have an Xbox One, or your kids got an Xbox One? Okay, Xbox One, you may know, is the kind of gaming platform where they can watch you. The Xbox One watches and records things, records information. And it can watch up to 6 people. So that it's for marketing, so they can tell who's interacting how with it. And so this guy at this event in Georgia where I was stood up and he said, because I was saying, well, this could be done with education as well. He said, no, it couldn't be done, it is being done. And he said, I know it's being done because I work for one of the companies that does it. The software is already there. A lot of these platforms are already in the schools. He said most teachers don't know what they're capable of. But he said every time a child touches the screen, we can tell things. We can tell his body temperature. We can tell all kinds of things about it. And he said it's a question of flipping the switch. The report also talks about the importance of data sharing, which Louisiana is already into. And of course, all this is the workforce development model, so wouldn't it be nice if employers could see all of this at some point? Wouldn't you like to know the fine-grained information on somebody who's applying for a job? So, I'll stop. I just wanted to say, am I saying that once your PARCC test goes into effect in Louisiana, because it hasn't yet, that your kids are going to be hooked up to these things? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that in this report, these people showed the mindset that they think this is okay. There's only, I think, one paragraph in this 120-something page report that talks about how there could be some privacy concerns here. Because generally what it says is, the problem with this is that it's not practical for the classroom yet. As soon as it is, we will be in the brave new world. Thank you.